Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. You know what that means. Welcome to episode number 73 of Material Issues. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records, and joining me as always, my very good friend, the guy in charge at International Pop Overthrow, Mr. David Bash. David, how's the West Coast treating you this afternoon?
How you doing, Mark?
Fantastic.
West Coast is treating me well, although for the first time in a long time, we're having a bit of thunder. Yeah, we're having a cloudy afternoon. I've heard a few rumblings come through. I don't think it's supposed to last all day, but it's, for early October, it's, hey, Andy, it's been a while. Glad to see you back.
Andy from the UK.
Yeah. So it's, hey, Gary, it's fairly unusual for it to be thundering in early October, but certainly it happens every once in a while. And so, so we had that today.
It never rains in California.
But it pours, man, it pours.
Man, it pours.
Now I know when we do a Stump the Bash and we get to, I'm gonna make a prediction right now. See if I'm within 10 on this.
Hi, Robin.
Hey, Robin. Another Robin here. Hey, Barry. It's good to hear everyone. I'm going to make a prediction that It Never Rains in Southern California by Albert Hammond.
Yeah.
Whoever this is. I'm going to make a prediction that it finished somewhere between 65 and 75.
All right.
On the year-end chart of 1972. I did not look. I'm just going by what I remember and what I've read about the song, how well it did, did during the year.
At the end of the show, we'll look that up and we'll see if your prediction, how close you are.
All right, but just let me know don't tell me what number it is, because if we play Stump the Bash and we don't want that. So
that's true.
So just let me know if I'm correct, that I'm within 10. 65 to 75. That's just yes or no.
When's
one of my favorite bands, Shoes.
Shoes. When's the next IPO on the schedule?
Well, before we get into that, I got a bit of news.
Oh, yeah.
As a lot of people probably know by now, the city of Liverpool has been awarded the Eurovision Song Contest for 2023. If you're from the States, you may be thinking, oh, that's nice. But if you're from anywhere in Europe, you know what a huge deal that is. And you know that people are going to be descending upon Liverpool like locusts during that time. Well, good for Liverpool. Kudos. They deserve it. It's going to be held in mid-May, which is when IPO is generally held. How will that impact? How would that impact IPO? Well, if you go and try to book a hotel during that period, you're going to be paying probably about 10 to 20 times more than you normally would. So with that in mind, I spoke to the good folks at the Cavern, and we will be moving the dates of IPO Liverpool to May 28th through June 4th.
Cool.
So 2 weeks later than normal.
A little warmer than normal, too.
That should alleviate, at least to a great degree, the high hotel prices and probably the difficulty in booking rooms. Yeah. It will be part of the bank holiday weekend, the first Sunday of IPO. How that impacts hotel prices, I don't know. I don't see a lot of people coming into Liverpool to celebrate that. Figure people will just stay wherever they are and sell it in the UK and celebrate it there. But anyway, so that's what we're doing. So mark your calendars. November, geez. May 28th through June 4th, 2023 is IPO Liverpool. As far as this year goes, yes, we've got New York, November 10th through 13th. We've got Boston, November 16th through 19th. And we've got Hamilton, Ontario, November 24th through 26th. And that's it for 2022. I'll talk more about 2023 later. Watch check. Yeah.
Let's check.
I'm going old school with my Breitling Aerospace.
Nice.
And which is funny because back in the mid 90s when this watch first came out, thank you, Andy, it was very, very new school with its analog digital display and all the different functions this watch has, like timer and stopwatch. It was the smart watch of its generation.
And we're still working on the Breitling sponsorship of the show, so you never know.
I would love nothing more. I only wish I could afford their watches. Yeah. This is like one of the cheapest ones that they've done. And of course, now they've gone up in price. So we got that. But more importantly, we've got a really great guest for everyone today on episode 73 of Material Issues. She's certainly a favorite of a lot of people. She's had a storied career, from being a musician in the Laurel Canyon scene to moving out to the East Coast, winding up in Cambridge, forming a band called the Chartbusters, who, although their albums didn't bust the charts, they did chart, and a major label band on Warner Brothers, the whole bit, put out some great music. She was the leader of that band, and she's still going strong. She has a new album coming out called Dirt Road to Heaven. I guess it's out already. I shouldn't say coming out. On Red Records, correct?
Yep, Red on Red Records.
Yep. Kovold, I believe, and all the people in Red on Red. Very, very cool. So yeah, it's great stuff, and she's awesome, and we're so thankful that she was able to come and do this. All right, would you please give a huge Material Issues welcome to Robin Lane?
Robin Lane. Good evening.
I had time to cut my bangs.
I know. I give long intros. When I do the International Pop Overthrow Festival, I usually get 30-second intros to bands. But many of them told me that they're the best intros they've ever had. So
I just went onto Facebook. Is this live?
Yes. This is live. Yes, this is live.
I didn't know that, or I would have been like going crazy.
Oh, no.
No, I just put it up. Maybe two people will see it.
Well, it's always archived too, and a lot more people watch the archive at their leisure, and then they listen to it on their podcast. So,
all right.
But this right now is live. So, but we're on our own channel. So if you want to say anything, you can say anything you want, and feel free. Okay. But nice to have you here, Robin. Robin, great to see you.
Got my masks. Wants some mask. I've got boxes of masks, and now nobody's wearing them. Okay.
You won't need them for this show.
Okay.
Maybe you can autograph them and send them out on your Patreon. We'll talk about your Patreon.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But Robin, welcome. It's a thrill to have you on Material Issues. David and I have been talking over the last few days on what a incredible life and career you've had so far. And as the Cowsills told us, it's not over, because you've got a new album out as well, and you're going strong. So if you would, will you give us a little bit of the beginning of Robin Lane? Where were you born, and what was little Robin Lane, all about?
Poor little lost soul.
Oh,
she okay, I don't want to be too honest, but anyway, yeah. So I was born in a trunk. No, let's see.
You don't need to hear about conception. Just maybe sometime after birth, maybe.
Okay, right. After birth, I grew up, sort of, but
nobody in this.
That's questionable. Yeah. I think. I had a brother, and I grew up with my mom and dad for a few years, and in Encino, in North Hollywood, Studio City, places like that. I guess, and you live in Reseda now?
Yeah, I do. So, yeah, I've lived in Studio City and Sherman Oaks. So, yeah, my neck of the woods.
Yeah, Sherman Oaks. My mom moved to Sherman Oaks, and I grew up with my brother, and we were hellraisers.
Nice.
And I was a very bad child. My hero was Patty McCormick from The Bad Seed.
Oh, there you go.
My favorite movie.
Yes.
So you tried to emulate that.
Yeah. Then sometime later, when I was going through all this shite, shall we say, and I was in this. There's a a book. Well, it was a bookstore and a cafe. I think it's on Cahuenga on the valley side. Do you know what I'm talking about, David? It's really delicious, and they have a backyard where people eat and yummy cake and everything. But anyway, the person that was running the bookstore was Patty McCormick.
Oh, wow.
Can you believe? And I was looking for self-help books. So there I am with the Bad Seed, Patty McCormick, looking for self-help books. And we were discussing all this stuff, and I was just like, but I'd heard that she didn't want to talk about the Bad Seed. Why not?
Why not?
I know.
That was a highlight of my life, actually.
Now, one thing I wanted to touch on, your dad was Ken Lane. And I'm a huge Dean Martin fan. I grew up watching everything in the 60s, Dean Martin variety shows and all that kind of thing. And I did not know that your dad co-wrote Everybody Loves Somebody, which is one of my favorite Dean songs. What kind of memories do you have as far as your dad and being tied into Dean Martin and that whole group? Did you have any contact with his friends, so to speak?
A little, yeah. I mean, all the people that my parents knew were in the music business for some reason. There are all sorts of really well-known songs that these people had written, like Bells and Buttons and just like Tammy. That was another favorite song of mine. So they were just always around. Yeah. What else can I say about that? I don't remember that much from being very little.
Did you see Dad?
You did meet Dean, though, right? You did.
I met him, but actually I didn't meet him through my father.
Oh, tell us about that.
I met him through his daughter and Dino and his daughter Dina, who I got to know at Ben Frank's. It was this place that people used to go to on the Sunset Strip.
Legendary.
We ran into each other, and then I'd go over to their house and hang out and spend the night. Run into my father there.
Oh, so you didn't have much. I mean, did you have much awareness of him sitting down and writing and doing his thing at the time?
Not really. No.
Wasn't anything that really influenced.
Well, my parents were divorced from me at an early age. My mother remarried, but one thing I do remember about my father, well, I remember him a lot, but he would come over and play the piano and kind of sing ba 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 boo. Like, it was that era of that kind of stuff. You know how everybody sings alike now? There are all these females that kind of had that same. There's different types of voices, but you can't get away from that.
Yeah.
You can't get away from that. And so my dad was in the era of Bing Crosby and the ba 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 boo.
And then,
I guess that was Frank Sinatra too, and he worked with Frank Sinatra as well.
Well, Frank originally recorded "Everybody Loves Somebody," but Dean Martin really took it to the popular level, to that level. But that's really awesome.
You were, I mean, what did the Beatles mean to you? I mean, you were right in the middle of that age-wise.
You meant everything.
It must have.
Everything. I remember we went to a drive-in movie theater, Van Nuys Drive-In. I can't remember, but we heard they were going to play a Beatles song. We'd heard about the Beatles, but nobody had heard them yet. They hadn't played them on the radio. So we were just waiting and waiting and waiting, and on comes "Love Me Do." Oh my God! To hear that harmonica and like, I just. Like, what is this? And I didn't even know. I mean, I was always musical. I was always singing and I loved Motown. But the effect of that one song and then their record and everything. And my neighbor, whose son I'm going to see soon because he was a friend of my brother's. And my brother died. But his father, David Dexter, did that album, the first album when the Beatles came. Do you know what I'm talking about at all? You'd have to look it up.
What, Meet the Beatles?
It was the first album, and he brought them, and he lived around the corner.
Now, okay, when you say brought them, are you?
What that means? He worked for Capitol.
Oh, he worked for Capitol. Okay,
and I think he didn't produce them, obviously, but he redid the album. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Any Beatles experts out there?
Yeah, Beatle experts.
Any real deep geeks who know who David Dexter is and what his role was.
Dave Dexter.
Look
him up. And yeah, so one of his sons was my age, and the other son was my brother's, but a really good friend.
Oh, cool.
And they lived around the corner. Everybody lived where I live. You know.
That where you lived, there everybody was there. And and looking at your history early on, you were more of a folk singer.
I wrote songs.
Okay.
So whatever you wanted to call that. No, I wasn't like folky like Tom Rush or anything.
Right.
No, but I did love Richard and Mimi Farina big time. I love the Staple Singers, Bob Dylan, Burt Jansch. There you go. That was the Beatles came first, but then later when I started playing guitar, there was Burt Jansch. Dave Dexter was the Capitol executive who messed with the mixes a bit.
I'm guessing this is John Borak who
that's okay, but it's true. It's true, I won't tell Dude that they said that. Dude Dexter.
Someone else had a question just
about the birds.
About the birds. Yeah.
Did I ever go to see the birds? Hello. Who do you think I was? Yes, of course. Of course. I was. Okay, the birds, oh my God, they were everything too. That was a little bit later, but at Ciro's, they played at Ciro's. I have so many stories. Yeah, they were wonderful, of course, and very influential on me later, I think, when I started my band.
When did you start playing an instrument? Did you start with guitar or did you learn piano?
I started with guitar when I was a teenager. My brother was a really good musician and great guitar player, and he taught me chords, and we'd sit around singing Everly Brothers songs, and then I'd take everything that he taught me and make a song out of it.
Nice.
And I'd get all the credit, but not him. Well, he didn't sing.
Band?
What?
Did you ever have a garage band?
A garage band?
Yeah.
The first thing I knew about garage bands, although they didn't call them garage bands in those days, was the Rockets in Laurel Canyon, who I stayed with all the time. Oh, wow. But they were definitely a garage band. And, I thought they were making a horrible sound, but then later when they were Crazy Horse, they made a really good sound.
Yes, indeed.
I just didn't get it. Yeah, so, because I was more, not folky per se, but not into... Well, not into what I later got into.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
Wow. Yeah. Yes.
Was it memorable?
Yeah. It's on this album.
Oh, is it? Oh, the instant album wow. with all your the career spanning solo work.
Yeah, it was a whole bunch of songs that I'd recorded but never released.
Right.
Well, during COVID, I put this out.
Yes.
On my own, calling it Instant Album. But there's a song on there called Benjamin. And if that wasn't the first one, it was one of the first ones.
And a particular person that you knew?
Yeah, a baby in my belly.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
And I called him Benjamin and then gave him up for adoption.
Oh,
and then later we found each other, though. That's a story.
We could get into that whole. I'm adopted, and
You are?
I recently, Pennsylvania opened their adoption laws, and I found out who my birth parents.
Recently? How recently?
Well, let's say when I say recent, like 3 years ago, they opened up the records, and you could get your original birth certificate. So to know that happened to you, and you actually reconnected, that's pretty awesome.
We knew some of the same people. He's a musician.
Wow.
He was in Eels for a while.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And he works with Autumn DeWilde. You know Autumn DeWilde? She does the best videos, and then now she makes movies.
Any relation to Brandon?
Is that Brandon? No, but her father is a really well-known photographer, but now she's more well-known. You can look her up. Autumn de Wilde. My son Adam Siegel works with her.
Holy cow.
She did all sorts of great ones, like one by never mind, I can't think of things.
All right. We could do a whole show just on
trying to remember words and bands and names of things.
But we're easygoing here. If we can't remember something, we just go on.
It starts with a B.
What brought you to Laurel Canyon and got you immersed into that scene?
Well, I was still in high school, and one night we went over to a party. We were always looking for parties. Us Valley girls. We'd go over the long 3 miles into Hollywood and look for parties. And we went to a party, and there was this guy named Danny Whitten, who was really cute and wore cashmere sweater and had a little hairdo, and he was a shindig dancer at that time. And so he gave me some pot, and I was like paralyzed with fear, but that didn't stop me from smoking it after that. And then, is this okay to talk about on your?
Yes, anything is.
Okay.
It goes, yeah.
And then he invited me over to where he was living in Laurel Canyon. And so I went and I stayed. And by the time I got out of high school, I was like there all the time. The Rocket House, which was on Laurel Canyon near maybe Kirkwood. I can't remember exactly.
I know where that is. How much did that influence your songwriting?
Which part?
Just being in that scene. Being around.
Yeah, Danny had changed by that time. Then he was wearing what are those? The Pendletons or the lumberjack.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That Kurt Cobain was wearing later.
Flannel.
Yeah.
Flannel. Pendleton type things. Well, how much did that influence my music? Well, of course it did. I met Neil Young there. That was influential. Stephen Stills. They were like, I wanted to be like them. I even met one time when I was hanging around with some other people, Jackie DeShannon, and she was like just awesome.
Wow.
So all these people I was meeting, and they were playing music, but I was too shy. Am I doing something wrong?
No, not at all.
You look great. You look great.
Well, no, he was doing something. So.
I'm just setting something up for later.
Oh, all right.
He's got a surprise.
Wait, he's got to put his lipstick on.
Well, that's no surprise. Everybody is expecting.
Oh, brother.
No, that's pretty awesome. But we talked about the Beatles and the Byrds and that kind of sound, but lyrically, you wonder. I wonder where some of your thoughts come from, where you get your lyrics throughout your whole career, because they're a little different. The perspective is a little different. You write about, I think, more introspective stuff or more things from an angle. So wondering
I've got an angle.
You've got an angle.
So got an angle.
Wondering where you
What's your angle, sister?
What's your angle?
But I forgot. Of course, the huge influence was Laura Nyro.
Oh,
Laura Nyro was the love of everything. After I got out of high school, was it after? No, it was after I was hanging out with Danny Whitten and those guys that later became Crazy Horse. Laura Nyro was just, everything.
And
I think her influence was huge.
Although, did that get you to want to go to the East Coast and become part of that scene?
No. But when you listen to that song Benjamin that I wrote about my son, and it's on the Instant album, if you have it, if you don't, I'll send it to you.
Wow.
That is so influenced by her, that song. And I wrote a lot of songs that were influenced by her, but then I kind of totally changed when I came back East. And
yeah, even your phrasing, whenever you sing, wow, is different. I mean, it's just different than
who? Different than
everybody.
And everybody.
That's your voice is very unique, also.
Yeah. You have a unique
the
voice.
Timbre of your voice. It's very, very unique.
People love it.
Very good way.
You know.
Well, my mom didn't think I could sing, so
No, you definitely. Your reunion album with the Chartbusters, that song "Little Bird." I mean, how good is that? How good is that? We'll get to that, but
that's a nice song, isn't it? I love that song, but I squeak in it.
But that's part of the beauty of the whole thing. Even your squeak is good.
Oh boy,
that's awesome. But so you even sang background on Neil Young track. Round and Round. So how did you get involved? How did you get involved even with Neil Young?
Through the Rocket House. The Rocket House. They sold pot, and that's where everybody went to buy their pot. And actually, so one night, this guy showed up, Neil Young. I knew the Buffalo Springfield. Everybody knew them and loved them. And I was playing my guitar. I'd learned a song by Bob Dylan, In My Time of Dying.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came in with a date, and then right in the middle of everything, probably because I was playing the guitar, he said, "Want to go for a ride in my hearse?"
Oh, that's
and
right.
So, and I went, okay. And I went for a ride in his hearse. And then he said, "Want to move up to my cabin?" And I said, okay. So I moved up to his cabin. And I don't know if we ever really had conversations. But anyway, so he taught me that song Round and Round.
And then one can infer what they want from that. Yeah.
What? Yeah, you can just whatever you want to think. Infer. Yeah. Dead Sea Scrolls, maybe. Like hard to interpret. But so then when he was recording that first album with Crazy Horse, he wanted me to sing on it, and I did.
Wow. Can you tell the Tim Hardin story?
I told that to you before.
No, we briefly mentioned on it, but I know the story, but I think it's such a cool little story.
Such a good story for me, but if Tim Hardin were still alive, he's not alive, right?
No, Tim Hardin.
He would not have a clue what I was talking about. But okay, Ciro's, the Birds. Me going there, and this guy that was always drunk and drinking. His name was Tim. He was always after me to dance with him. He's a really good dancer. So I'd dance with him, but then he was all slobbery drunk, like And then there was this other guy up in the hills that used to sell a lot of pot. A lot of things went on at his house. He was called Jiffy Jeffy. And one time I took a ride with Jiffy Jeffy and all of his cohorts to find some more pot. And we were up in Sunset, up above Sunset Strip in the hills, and got out of the car, and I heard this music coming from somewhere. And lucky us, it was coming from the house we were going to. And I followed the music, and I was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. But I was just like struck, in my body and my soul and everything. And then I followed it through. And there he was, Tim, the drunk guy, sitting on a little stool singing his songs. And I just plopped down and went like, oh my God,
Yeah, I mean, grossly underrated singer-songwriter, Tim Hardin. I mean, if I were a carpenter alone, if that was the one song you did, your career.
How can you hang on to a dream?
Hang on to a dream. Amazing.
Amazing.
But that's kind of funny. You were being picked on by a drunk guy at a bar, and it turns out to be Tim Hardin, and you see him up in the hills.
You just love.
Yeah, and I heard his music. I mean, who would have known?
Who would have known? Yeah, and you were like, "Don't bother me! Don't bother me!
Don't bother me!" Like you drunkard. But I don't know what he was at that point. But the music coming out of him. So I don't think about this all the time, or really even maybe I think of so many other things having to do with where I came from and how I came to be a musician and writing songs. But I was really fortunate to be around a lot of musicians that that later became movers and shakers and were, became big in the world, and people loved them. And I was up close and personal with a lot of them, but I wasn't doing that then. See, I was just the observer.
Speaking of
taking it all in.
Speaking of which, tell us about how you met Andy Summers and what happened.
There's another story. Okay, wait a second. Hold on. I was taking care of my girlfriend Della's house. I think that was on Kirkwood. And Della had gone out with Andy. But I don't know who Andy was from a hole in the wall.
Right.
All of a sudden there's a knock on the door, and I open it, and there's standing this little guy, kind of cute. Was cute. He said, "Is Della here?" I went, "No, but I am. You want to come in and hear my songs?"
God, I'm so jealous. I wish I could have lived in that time.
I know. I said, "Do you want to hear my songs?" Like, God, how forward. And he came in, and I played my songs, and of course he was smitten. I say that with all my ego showing. No, it has nothing to do with that. A cute girl singing her songs, playing the guitar. And that's how I met Andy Summers.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then what?
Forget Della.
Della missed
and
out.
then we hung out, and he knew we went to a party at John Mayall's one night, and who looked just like a wolf. Just like a wolf. He opened the door and he looked like a wolf. We walked in, and there were all these musicians there, mostly from England, British people. And I was standing behind this guy, and then I see over in the corner Andy trying to get me to come over to meet Danny Thompson. Was that the bass player in Pentangle? He played stand-up bass.
I know Bert Jansch. That's
Bert Jansch.
Yeah.
So I looked down, and there's Bert Jansch right in front of me. And I went, "Are you Bert Jansch?" And then we had a nice talk for the night. And
as you said, you weren't doing that stuff then, and you were just kind of living your life and meeting people. But you have to admit, looking back on it now, with everybody that turned out to be who they turned out to be, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty. I mean, people don't get those kind of opportunities.
Not in Iowa.
And as David said, I'm so darn jealous. I didn't grow up in that period of time in that area, and you just happened to be at the right place at the right time for a lot of right things, and that's just.
And who knew? I mean, you don't know that when you're there.
You don't know it, and that's why we do material issues, because we've talked to so many people and gotten this archived for everybody to understand what it was all about, and.
It was so fun, but I didn't know it. And I was also in San Francisco a lot.
Yeah, Barry said Danny
T.
Yes,
Danny T. Danny Thompson.
Yeah.
Right. And then so Pentangle was there. They were on tour. That's why they happened to be at that party.
Wow.
What else? Yeah, but San Francisco was a whole other scene where I hung out with these guys in the Electric Flag.
Oh, wow.
And because my friend was their road manager, somebody that I'd met through Danny Whitten and those people. And so I was always with them, going everywhere. One time they were looking for drugs, but they did.
Seems like everybody was.
They were doing other drugs. Oh. And everybody was driving around looking for drugs. So where was anybody but in the cars, California, looking around for the drugs? So we went to this house, and it was Owsley's. We were looking for Owsley's house. It was in Berkeley, I think.
Owsley, the chemist, not the singer from later on, just so people don't get confused.
Come again?
There was a pop musician called Owsley who had a couple of albums right at the turn of the millennium. So I just wanted to make sure people knew it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Well, Owsley was a huge, I guess he was a chemist, but he manufactured a lot of stuff like window pane and all these drugs that were coming out. Well, acid drugs, acid drugs. And but they weren't looking for that. They wouldn't have done that. The Electric Flag were like solid guys, from Chicago, tough. But then anyway, so Owsley opens the door, and he's naked, totally naked, and he has this brown stuff on his hand. He goes, "Here, want a lick?"
My God!
So I took a lick. I don't think those other guys, Mike Bloomfield, didn't take a lick. Barry Goldberg. I talked to Barry Goldberg a couple of years ago. That was so great. Anyway, and then we went into the house, and there was the Grateful Dead, all naked. And there were these mattresses out on the floor, and they were jumping up and down and like jumping back and forth. And after that lick off of Owsley's hand, I was up for days and went with my friend to Big Sur, and we were just sleeping out in the open in sleeping bags. And I saw a Sidewinder go by, but who cares? Like you just go to sleep. And
what a time that was!
The day when everybody was high and naked, and
everyone was just did stuff and didn't worry about consequences. I mean, could you imagine walking into somebody's house that you don't know now and having them say, "You want to lick my hand?" Like nobody would.
Oh my God, nobody would do that, and then they'd just call them pervs for sure.
I see a pretty girl walk by my house. I don't open the door and say, "Hey, come on in and listen to my music." My God, the cops would be here any second.
Just for that.
Could you imagine? Me doing that now, or like, "Oh, come on in. I don't know you from Adam, and listen to my songs."
And by the way, everybody in here is naked.
Wow. I knew we'd get good stories, but nothing can top this.
Which one? That one, the naked. The naked people.
The whole thing.
It's a chapter of my book that I've been writing for years.
Oh my gosh!
Owsley and the naked people. Yeah.
But to get things grounded again, obviously we know what happened with Andy Summers. Besides the fact that you married him, obviously we know his claim to fame. At that time, was there any inkling at all that he was going to become what he became?
Well, he had been in the Animals. That later version of the Animals was Sky Pilot.
Oh, he had. Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah. Yes,
wow.
He was. And then he was also in Soft Machine in England for a while. And he was in Zoot Money's Big Roll Band, and they were quite popular in England. He'd tell me all the stories of just funny stories about going around, driving around, and through Wales and Scotland and all that. And he also had this band with Zoot Money called Dantalian's Chariot, and he just kind of mentioned it. So I never thought anything of it, but like, I don't know, 7 or 6, I can't even talk, 6 or 7 years ago, I looked that band up, and they were fabulous.
Yeah.
And he never talked about them. Look them up. Have you heard of them?
I've heard them, yeah.
Yeah.
And Andy's guitar playing was fabulous in that too. So when Andy was married to me, he went to school at like Valley JC or Pierce
College in the Valley.
Yeah. And he was just playing classical guitar.
Wow.
The whole time he was married to me. I brought him tea in the afternoon and that kind of stuff.
I just have to interject something really quick. A friend of ours, John Borak, has been asking this question over a couple times. And John, just so you don't think we're ignoring you, we have something planned around that question. So I don't want to pop the question up, which will ruin something that we want to do. So we'll get there, John. We'll get there, John.
Confused? You won't be.
Okay. I told you, whatever. I'm fair game. I don't care.
It's all good. Dantalian's Chariot, one album. And it was
Dantalian's Chariot only made one album, but it was great. See, they said it. And Andy used to talk a lot about Soft Machine. What was the guy's name?
Roger Wyatt. Wyatt. Yeah.
What was his first name? Andrew Wyatt.
Robert Wyatt.
No, Robert Wyatt. Yeah, Andrew's an artist. Robert Wyatt, and how he said he never read books. But he was very, very smart.
How do you get there?
We should probably skip ahead a bit. We could talk about this stuff forever. Because
I could talk forever. I am a blah, blah, blah.
But what brought you out to the East Coast and ultimately Cambridge?
Well, I came to visit a friend who'd inherited a gentleman's farm in Pennsylvania in Bucks County area.
You know, yeah.
Pardon me?
Mark knows Bucks County pretty well.
I grew up in Berks County, right next to Bucks County.
What town?
I grew up in Berks County, right next to Bucks County. So Allentown, PA area.
We always used to go to Bethlehem and Allentown.
Yeah.
Hellertown. It was a rural route where the mail came in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Springtown. Do you know Springtown?
I recorded the very first time I was in a recording studio was in Springtown, Pennsylvania. Yes, yeah.
I wouldn't have thought anybody would ever be there. You know, like
SRS recording studios in Springtown with my first band called The Few. And
really, maybe you saw me. Because I went back to visit this friend Tom Logan, and I ended up staying there, and then we became this little duo called Logan Lane, and we play in Bucks County.
Oh my gosh! You know, I don't remember it, but I'm not going to say that I didn't.
Did you ever go to what was it? New Hope.
New Hope, John and Peter's, and
John's place.
Yeah, John's place. Yeah,
that's where we used to play.
And I probably saw you hanging out there, and I didn't even know who the heck you were.
I remember people went, "Okay, you guys are okay, but you know we like rock and roll. We weren't really rock and roll."
Right.
Wow.
Small world stuff.
You know? Small world. So why are we talking about Pennsylvania, Bucks County?
Well, I just
what brought me east.
Yeah.
So then I was there for a while, and then I moved up. I moved to New York for a while, and then some friends lived in Cambridge. Well, that's where they were all from. I always wanted to go to Cambridge, so I did, and I liked it, and I ended up staying.
Is that where isn't everybody you formed the Chartbusters, right?
You guys are both talking what?
I'm sorry. This is where you formed the Chartbusters in Cambridge.
Yeah, well, in Boston, in Cambridge, I was still the singer-songwriter, me doing that kind of a thing, and then it really happened. Like I had this roommate, and she had all these albums, like by Talking Heads, Patti Smith, Dwight Twilley, like just and all these albums that I thought, oh my God, what is this music? You know, this was different. And then, but I ended up liking it a lot. And then I went to see Cheap Trick at the Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
And met this guy who was so cute. His name was Alpo. And he was in a band called The Real Kids.
Right. Okay.
And then we hung out together, and he introduced me to everything. Like it took me to the Rat, and then I was really liking what was going on at the Rat. You know, it seems so real as opposed to Cambridge, you know, very precious singer-songwriter type people like me, you know. So I still had my long hair, like I haven't had my, and then, but I was hanging out at the Rat. But I did go home later and dyed my hair red and cut it all off in front of my friends. So then I had short, butchy hair, and I asked these guys that I met there if they wanted to be in a band. I told them I had a record deal, which I did with Private Stock Records.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Before they went belly up, right?
Exactly, right before Richard got her, but I was signed as the singer-songwriter Robin Lane. You know, so, but I had other ideas. So I found these guys, you know, that had been in the Modern Lovers and were playing with other bands at the Rat. And I said, want to be in a band? I've got a record deal. So I lured them. And then we just, and we started a band. And then my manager was coming going like, I'm not going to get rid of you, but this is the worst music I've ever heard. You know, so then we kept playing, and then the publisher came and he liked the music. And then we just, you know, I had so much fun. I wrote the songs and they played them, and then we got signed.
How did that happen? Did someone from Warner's come and see you, or?
Yeah, well, so Jimmy Iovine one time said that I had the most free press of anybody he'd ever seen. And at that time, I did. A lot of people were writing about my band and me, and didn't have to ask anybody to write about you. You just played, and then word of mouth, and it just kind of went on from there. So then Richard Perry wanted to sign us to Planet Records, and then Warner Brothers did. Jerry Wexler came up to see us.
Wow.
And I don't think he was totally thrilled with us or anything. He said we didn't have dynamics, so we had to kind of learn about dynamics. And I don't think we had them for a long time. We were just like, I wanted to make a statement big in my songs. Like, I wasn't into nihilism, and I wasn't into I was into the end of the world, but like, at that time I really believed in Jesus. So I thought like Jesus was going to save the whole deal. I wasn't into Jesus until never mind. This isn't a political show, right? I just,
yeah.
But 1980 sees the
Jesus
Robert
is a good. He's just all right with me. It's those Christians.
So 1980 sees Robin Lane and the Chartbusters album released on Warner,
Right.
And so the single "When Things Go Wrong" was that the first single off the album?
Yeah,
and it wasn't. I mean, it reached what in the 80s or so in the charts? Something
God,
like
I don't know.
Yeah,
Probably reached like 1,000.
I mean, the interesting thing about that is MTV's first day on the air, you were video number 11 played on MTV.
And who knew you'd have to do all that? I just wrote songs.
Yeah.
I was just a musician. I had no idea you had to have this kind of. It's just like now. Everybody knows how to market themselves now. I don't know anything about that really. It's like
join the club.
What?
Join the club.
Yeah.
I try to market my festival all the time, and it's hard.
It's really hard, but people learn about that. Like they go to school for it. They're musicians, but they grow up knowing about it somehow. And I think the same thing was happening when our band was happening. People were understanding that image had a lot to do with it. From where I came from back in the day of Janis Joplin and those people, like, I guess you had an image, but it wasn't like, you didn't have to have this image that, I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to.
But then video killed the radio star. So there you go.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Well, how did you feel
Go ahead,
you
Mark.
fit in? How did you feel you fit in at that time period with your image? Were you?
I didn't think of an image. I didn't even know what the word meant.
Well, exactly. So therefore, you're just Robin Lane and the Chartbusters doing your thing. But at that time, who we have at that time? Debbie Harry was.
She had an image. Well, she knew. Obviously, I mean, she knew about images. I think Patti Smith probably didn't know about image, but she sure had an image because she was who she was. Yeah. But I guess I didn't wear the same clothes all the time, and I'd dye my hair and cut it, or that was okay once Cyndi Lauper was out, and Lady Gaga sure took that to the extreme. So.
Another level, yeah.
Just as an aside,
Robin,
as an aside, I want to thank you so much for writing and recording "Don't Cry" because it's my favorite.
Oh, really?
It's going through my head right now. It's
little Vivi's. She loves that song too, and she can actually sing it. She goes around.
See, I have a mind of a 5-year-old, so there you have it.
It's a wonderful song, though. Oh my gosh, that's something. So the first album did okay, but you released 2 more albums on Warner Brothers. So
we released an EP that was recorded live. It was recorded live at the Orpheum. Where we never got a sound check because people were bashing down the doors to get in, and then we released Imitation Life.
Right, yeah, okay.
Which didn't do that well.
What did you think about the production on that album? Because
Imitation Life.
it definitely sounded more 80s than the first one.
Oh, Andy didn't like that producer at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't like my albums anyway. Andy didn't. He thought I made myself mediocre. He said,
really?
like, the best songs you wrote were when you were with me.
Wow.
Well, I'm sure they had sentimental value, but
yeah,
he's wrong.
And then as far as my band goes, like when I started writing other kinds of songs, or even now, like people go, oh, well, like that, I like that music better. You know, it's where you are at the time, and if you're in the stages of growing up, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, music becomes a soundtrack of our life, and when we can tie songs to events that take place in our lives, when we're coming of age or
coming of age music
in a wonderful love affair or whatever, those are going to be our favorites always.
Yeah,
indeed. And then so after album or the second full length on Warner, the Chartbusters basically said, we're done. You know, we're just not.
Well,
not happening.
Honestly, Leroy, who is my boyfriend, one of the guitar players, he didn't want to have the band anymore because Asa Brebner always played at volume 11, and that annoyed Leroy. Although Leroy didn't come up with any alternatives.
Right.
So we broke up the band, and then I got pregnant.
There you go.
And that kind of did me in. Because I would hear things like, once a woman has a baby in this business, she's done for. She's over. No. You're over. You're over, Robin.
Whoever told you that, we're going to shoot him.
I can't tell you how, wow, it was like really brutal to me.
Well, this is your life. This is
my life. I wasn't, by the way, I had the baby and I was just writing more and more songs, you know, and I'd get to go to Europe and play them with some different musicians and from England and Germany and Holland. And I was always writing songs. I never stopped.
How about being told, you know, after babies and things, you're done. I mean, that's just
terrible.
Well, and that was my reality. I think some other people had babies, but they probably had more money and they were more popular. So they were able to get away with that. 8.3 was a great volume 11 song.
There you go.
Good one, Barry. Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, but later on, I remember when I moved out here in 2000, where I am in Western Mass, I saw this magazine called Moms Who Rock.
Oh, wow.
And of course, that was a lot later, but yeah.
I mean, you got into doing some solo stuff after the Chartbusters Catbird Seat.
Oh, yeah.
Backside at the same time, you wrote Wishing on Telstar for Susanna Hoff's album.
I wrote that in Germany, and then David Kahn heard it, and he was producing Susanna Hoff's and got her to do that song.
Wow.
And then I went out there and sang on her album. And that was a nice song.
It's a great song. Yeah, it's a wonderful song. I didn't know you had any part in it and be a part of doing our due diligence. I was like, wait a minute. Song.
That's a nice song. And then I put it on Catbird Seat, which Catbird Seat has some good songs on it, but I can't listen to myself the way I'm singing on a lot of them either. I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, why do you feel that way?
I don't know. I can't remember me then when I was making the album and why I was singing in this kind of higher pitch. And I'd have to listen to it right now to tell you and go like, ew, what were you thinking? You know, I can't tell you. I don't know. Maybe it came out of doing a duo with my ex-bass player, Scott Barenwald. We played around. I really don't know. But so it's not one of my favorite the way I'm singing. I think I actually can sing sometimes, but not that album was...
But
songs
you grew and you changed, and things were just different based on the whatever you were going through at the time. And as I told you, when the Chartbusters regrouped, 2003 or so.
Yeah.
That song "Little Bird," as I told you, I just love it, and that's different vocally for you too. The climb that you make on those high notes, and I know you said you squeaked, but I just
that was an older song too. That came out of before I even started the Chartbusters. That song,
beautiful. It's a beautiful.
But Ace had always loved it, and he wanted me to record it on the album. I got my old friend Robin Bateau to play violin on it. Isn't that beautiful?
Very beautiful.
We need to interrupt things right now because Robin Lane, this is your life.
Wait a minute. What?
Yes.
What?
See if you remember this voice from your past.
Like from you too, but the best was Robin Lane.
Yes, one of my
California.
Favorites. Yes, California by P. Huck, Parthenon Huxley's band. So he said you were the best. What were you the best at?
I didn't know he was going to say that. That's ask Robin if she has ever heard P. Huck's song that mentions
your ears were burning because I just played it.
I took him to a U2 concert.
How well did you know Parthenon? Did you
pretty
play
well
pool with him?
Hmm?
Did you play pool with him? Is that what he was talking about?
I took him to a U2 concert. We were backstage, and he played pool with Edge.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And he was a good friend, and I sang on his album. And then, here's a little story. This is wonderful. He was married at the time to Janet.
Yeah.
Heaney.
Yes.
Oh, you know that?
I know Parthenon. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So her sister is Jocelyn Heaney. And so I met Jocelyn through Parth and Janet. And she came out here to do her MA at Amherst, somewhere, Amherst College or one of those places. And then she started helping me write my book.
Wow,
so Jocelyn and I were writing this book together that I still am writing forever, probably never get done. But she helped me. And then she had a boyfriend named E from Eels. And when Janet and Parthenon got married, E was there. And I just remember thinking he was the oddest guy. And all of Parthenon's friends from Chapel Hill were there, and they were like, what's this like E dude? Everybody was just kind of talking about him. And so then later, my son is looking for me, and I'm looking for him. He started looking for me first. And then I knew his name was Adam Siegel, so I started looking him up. And then I find that he's in this band called Eels with E. And they're playing, who's that guy from UK Squeeze Squeeze?
Glenn
and he's
Tilbrook?
got a show in England.
Glenn Tilbrook or Chris Difford?
The one that has this show. Glenn. Was it Glenn? What's the show? It's a famous show. I thought it was Squeeze.
Oh yeah, no. Keyboard player David.
Why am I blanking?
Early Squeeze.
Why am I blanking on that?
He had the show where all the bands were on the show.
All the bands played. So I'm looking up my
Help
son.
us out, audience.
What is help audience?
Tell us who. Jules Holland. There it is. Somebody.
Jules Holland. There you go.
Yeah. Oh my Lord! I was drawing a blank.
Yeah.
So
senior moments here.
I'm looking up my son, right, Adam Siegel, and then it kind of leads me over to the Jules Holland show because Eels are playing there, and I don't have a clue about this. I'm going, oh my God, there he is, and he looks just like me. He's my son. I mean, I almost died. Seriously,
wow.
Hyperventilating for breathing. They were like, and he was playing the bass, and he was playing a part that I would have played. I played the exact same thing. And I just couldn't believe it. You should see that. You should watch it with Eels. It's called Cancer for the Cure.
Okay. All right.
So then Tim Jackson's making this movie about me, When Things Go Wrong, Robin Lane's story.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd found Adam, and we went out to LA to film me meeting Adam. That was okay with Adam.
Wow.
And at Adam's house is Autumn DeWild, who lived next door to Carrie Snodgrass. And her brother was really good friends with Neil's son, Jake, is that his name? The first son. Yeah. And then, so we're all in the backyard talking. And then we're going down to meet my friend Jocelyn, because Jocelyn was my good friend, and we're all going to meet for dinner. And there's Jocelyn, and there's E inside the restaurant. We go in. It was the weirdest thing, I'm telling you. All these connections.
Everything just ties in.
And then we all ate dinner together, and Jocelyn and E just carried on, were the funniest people ever. With my bio son, Adam.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just blabbing.
No, it's great though. I mean,
his first two albums are wonderful. His solo albums prior to Eels, they're among my favorite records.
A Man Called E is
Man Called E and Broken.
Did Parthenon do that one?
I think he had some involvement.
Involvement. I don't know what he did in it, but he had involvement. E's first two solo albums were incredible.
They're wonderful, yeah.
Oh, I should listen.
Yes, please.
You would love it. You would love it. But you got to get this book. You got to finish this book, Robin, because
my book.
Your book. I mean,
now how can I do that with a 5-year-old running around right now? Well, they're moving out pretty soon. You know what you need to write a book and to do it, and really, you need complete time and space and money, and so you don't have to worry about your bills or where the money's coming from. You just sit there.
If you lick somebody's hand and
a hand to lift,
you'll get a lot of things done.
Yeah, you need a hand.
Say that again.
You need a hand to lift. Yeah.
What's this?
I'm saying
a hand to lift. The licking a hand, like your story.
You'll be up for 3 days.
I know. Oh well, I could do that.
Forever.
Well, maybe I could write it in 3 days if Owsley was around anymore.
There you go.
Well, Robin, let's talk about your new album.
Yes.
Okay.
Red on Red Records, and this is Dirt Road to Heaven. I've been listening to the heck out of it for the last week or so, and it is a wonderful album. We talked a little earlier when you and I were talking earlier in the week. Very introspective. There's just a lot of, just coming of age and knowing that time is short for a lot of us, and you're seeing the beauty in things in the world, and just noticing these things and faded
and a bit of a country feel, stylistically.
Thank you.
Yeah, a little country feel to it, but just
it was going to be a country album. When I first started recording this album, it was going to be my country album, but then things came up and other songs and whatnot.
And Honey Dumber, you look at that title and you think, what the heck is this about? But it's like, just quit talking and come over here and hold me.
So I wrote that with my good friend. Well, first he was Baby John back in the day, and then he was Will Hines, and now he's William W. Fuqua. And so. Okay. He was the road manager, the sound guy, the lighting guy for Neil Young and Crazy Horse when they first went out. And if you open that album, everybody knows This Is Nowhere. I get it mixed up with my dad's song. Everybody loves somebody's song. But there he is with the dog leaning on him on the inside. And I wrote the song with him up in Zion, National, whatever it is, because our friend Terry Sachin lived up there. There's more Terry Sachin stories too, so
I'm sure,
because he was the road manager for the Beach Boys. So there's sandbox stories and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's incredible. And listening to that and having talked to you, you strike me as a person who is compassionate, who feels for people, who just wants to share your joy and your happiness. And you end up with the album with Sunshine Blue Skies, and you're basically saying you're here for us, and you're here for your friends, and you're here for, and it's a wonderful way to just say, we're all here together, and let's just take care of ourselves and each other, and it's a beautiful sentiment. And Sunshine Blue Skies is a wonderful song. So thank
you for seeing that in the album. That song is not mine, though.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. It's just it very much.
It's Asa.
Yeah, it very much kind of describes you very, very well. I think, and that's just my own personal.
And you're obviously a compassionate person because you organize Songbird Sings, which is a really, really wonderful, wonderful charity. Tell people about that because this is really important.
Well, somehow at one point when I moved out to Western Mass, I found myself in a writing group. And then I found out that they found out that I was a songwriter. So they asked me if I would teach them how to write songs. So I started this workshop, and then I found out that they'd been through these women that I was with had been through unspeakable experiences like traumas and awful things happening to them. I can't even begin to tell you some of the stories, like trafficked out to pedophile doctors from the just awful, awful stuff. But I didn't know that at first. I thought I was just doing a songwriting workshop. So I got these women to tap into their own stories and put them into lyrics. And then I helped them write songs out of those lyrics. And then we recorded the songs. And if they felt like singing, they would, or else somebody else would sing them, or I would sing them. And it was incredibly cathartic for everyone to be in a group of other people that had gone through these terrible experiences, because you start doubting yourself if you're just alone. Like, did this really happen? Something happened to me, a couple things. And then I just went like, oh, you either go like and tell a joke about it and be really, like, or you bury it so deep, and then it's messing you up. I always had this stuff messing me up until I realized through these women, working with not just women, but young women that had been trafficked and veterans that had been in different war, Afghanistan and women in prison, that there were so many similarities between us all, and we were validating each other too. This actually happened. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Also, I don't have to be defined by this thing that happened to me. More than that. Wow. And so the songs were giving them back the joy that had been missing, I think. Giving them a key also to their own healing capabilities,
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Right now.
And then, so I'm going to show you this.
Oh, yeah.
This is an album that I put songs that were the most palatable on this. A Woman's Voice. Healing Trauma, one song at a time.
Wow.
So it's got a bunch of songs on it, and it's on my website. You can get it.
Hey, Robin, can people find, I'm scrolling it across the bottom right now, therobinlane.com. That's where anybody can find anything or links to things, the albums, the new album, everything.
Join my Patreon. Become a patron.
Here we go.
There you go. Do you have that? Can they see that?
You can see it, yeah.
Patreon.com/Robin Lane. I was over there earlier today, and you have really neat levels, and you do some really cool things on your Patreon site. So any Robin Lane fans, check out patreon.com/Robin Lane and get involved.
I think I'm still like feeling that illness or like something because I'm like sneezing. So sorry.
That's all good. I'm doing the same thing. It's pollen and fall season. Everything's getting dusty and falling around here. But yeah, Patreon and the robinlane.com, your website, everybody can find everything out about you and your albums that are available. And I hope they go out and pick up Dirt Road to Heaven, because it's just so good.
Thank you.
Yes.
And very well done.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Well, you're still playing quite a bit live, aren't you?
I would love to go out on the road, but how do you do that these days? I don't know. You need money. Everything is money.
Yeah, it is. But you're still doing it.
But also because I need somebody to help me carry things. Like the last place I went, I was like, I can't lug this stuff anymore. I'm like, just breaks down your body. You need help. It takes a village, right?
It sure does. Yeah. But thank you so much for being a part of Material Issues tonight, Robin. This has been.
Thank you
for having me.
This was an honor. Really,
this is an honor. It was so much fun, and I'm sure we could go on and talk for 2 more hours on the stories that you have. And maybe when you release your next album next year, we'll get you back on here. We'll talk about it and update all the stories as well, because I had an absolute blast this evening, Robin.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
Robin, thank you.
And we hope everybody checks out your website, checks out the.
The next album will have songs on it. One's called Why, but it starts out, why do we have 2 eyes? Maybe that sounds really dumb, but when you really get into it, I mean, why? Everybody has 2 eyes. Is there anybody or anything that doesn't have 2 eyes? Maybe a fish. That one fish with the little.
Well, Moshe Dayan. Well, never mind.
Yeah, remember him?
I do. With my Israeli history, I certainly do.
Are you an Israeli person?
I'm an Israeli citizen. My dad was from Israel, and
my daughter went to Birthright Israel.
Oh,
and wow. And I realized that I could go back for a right of return. So, but you're already a citizen, so there you go.
No, thank you so much. And everybody's checking in. Barry saw you at the Bijou Cafe in Philly. So he goes way back with you. But thanks everybody for watching tonight. And we really had a great time. Robin, we wish you the best. Health, happiness, and just keep smiling, keep doing what you're doing, because it's appreciated. And we love you. We love you.
Thank you. Yes.
Love you too. Love all you people.
Thank you for introducing us to Vivi too. That was sweet.
Oh yeah, the Vivers.
Enjoy the heck out of her. Robin, have a great night. We will talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Oh, that was nice.
There you have it, David. Robin Lane on Material.
Awesome. I had these stories about the late 60s shenanigans. But, even more so, just the time that somebody could walk into a stranger's house, have them say, lick my hand, and you do. Could you imagine that now? Because is that even conceivable? A, that somebody would ask you to do that, and B, that you would do it. Thank you. And I mean, obviously she's not the only person, and Owsley and the Grateful Dead, they're not the only people who were doing that stuff.
Obviously we got to bring it back. Obviously we got to bring it back, David, because I really want to have naked people in my house partying.
And I want people to lick the ketchup potato chips right off my hand.
We just can't do it on Halloween trick or treat night. But outside of that, we could probably work something out. But that was a wonderful, wonderful show. Fantastic. Robin is the best, and her new album is really good, and I hope people check it out. And
I'm sure they will.
Look at robinlane.com, and great stuff. So as always, we have things in the fire. We've got people coming up. I know I've got a couple of things going on that we're just trying to book some dates.
As do I. I have a feeling we're going to be filling some dates, which means there may not be too many Stump the Bashes in our future. But
I know
this is better. So having really great guests like Robin. That's awesome. Yeah. So we'll have more. We will definitely have more for you. In the meantime,
I got to look up. What do I got to look up? I got to look up. It Never Rains in California, right?
Oh yeah. Look up. Tell me what number that finished as on the year end Billboard Hot 100. I think it finished between, what did I say, 70. What did I say? 75 and 85 or 60?
65
and 75. All right, I'll stick with that.
And we'll see. Let's see here.
Just tell me if I'm right or wrong. I don't want to know where. I don't know. Well, obviously, I don't want to know where it finished.
I know. Oh, you were very close,
but not right. Okay.
Well, no, but you were it was in your ballpark.
Okay, it made it anyway, so we know that. So maybe we'll encounter it in a Stump the Bash someday.
When you said 65 to 75, gosh darn you got the 10-year period right. So or the 10 chart position period right.
Yeah,
so
well,
pretty darn good, David.
The rewards of a misspent youth, or a youth not spent at all,
or not spent at all, or no change back from your dollar, whatever you want to say.
Being in my room licking my hands all day. Yeah,
this show will stick in my mind for a while.
No doubt about it.
That was some good stuff. Well, everybody, we'll see you next Wednesday. If there is a guest, and there may be, tune in to hear Material Issues on Facebook. Join the group. Subscribe over on YouTube, materialissues.com. You'll get a little notification who's coming up. If not, it'll be David and I having a good time next Wednesday, playing Stump the Bash, and
always having a good time, no matter what, whether or not we have guests. We always have a good time, and we hope you do too. Yeah. We try.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Absolutely. Good night, everyone. Stay safe.